Hi, folks. This is Louis Hertham, the original Peter Abernathy. Hell is empty and all the devils are here on the Shat TV Westworld podcast with Roger, Gene, and Big D.
Welcome back to Shat TV Westworld, the unofficial podcast companion piece to the hit HBO series Westworld. I am one of your hosts, Gene Lyons. Alongside me is my co-host, Ash.
Hi, y'all.
And this is our Instacast edition where we look back on this week's episode of Westworld and provide our immediate reactions. This week's episode was titled Generation Loss. It is episode 4 of season 4. Ash, what'd you think?
So I thought this episode built really nicely on the last one. It was pretty seamless, the transition. I like that we're getting some more pieces of the story put together. Sometimes in seasons past, they've kind of waited forever in order to tell us what we needed to know. And it's nice that they're rolling it out mid-season so that the last 4 episodes can really kind of dig into the plot that they've developed. I thought it was great to see Teddy come back and get some of the clues that kind of he is who he is and hopefully not the man in black in disguise. I would have really hated that storyline. So I was happy for that. I don't know if I love the idea of Maeve not actually being dead. This one was like fucking telegraphed, y'all, like pretty huge all episode that Maeve was fucking coming back, right? I wish that they would just let the dead stay dead because it feels like we're a little bit into like Game of Thrones later seasons territory here. But fun news, Caleb is actually dead. So that was great. I guess I won't count it that he's coming back as a host. And it was nice to hear some of Charloris's plans. Also, can I just say, bomb fucking outfit that Charloris is wearing at the end of the fidelity test. It was nice to see her finally be who she has been in previous seasons, which is a formidable bad bitch. And that was nice. So overall, I liked it.
Once again, we're watching the show through the same prism. I was watching the scene where she's sitting 23 years in the future in New York with Caleb. She's got that outfit on. And instead of trying to hide that hot dog arm, she's just framing that fried sausage in a curtain sleeve befitting Neptune's robes. Like, it looked majestic. She's like, look at it. Fucking look at it. I dare you.
It's my battle wound.
For hardcore Westworldos, this episode might have been full of yeah, duh moments. Like you said, we called a lot of this. People on the Telegraph, in the deep dive, we knew a lot of this was coming. But I appreciate, just like you, Ash, the timing of the answers we were given. I'm the type of viewer that doesn't think anything is solid until I see it for myself. We now have a confirmed timeline, confirmed deaths, confirmed identities, more on the science behind the flies, more on Charloris's plot, why the old new park existed, and what the weapon is, right? Lots of questions answered in just one episode. And the key word here is momentum. It builds some really nice momentum going into the back half of the season. It almost feels like it could be a season structure that resembles some sort of a narrative bomb pop, where you have that cherry layer of mystery. We just ate through that. We're going to get a lime layer of action, and then maybe finally a blue raspberry layer of resolution to top it all off.
Sounds delicious.
And if it sounds like a lot of opinion here, just a reminder, this is the Instacast. This is me, Ash. We just watched the episode a few minutes ago. We're reacting immediately. This is our opinion segment. And then on Tuesday, you will get the deep dive, which is where we dive more factually, objectively into the things that we saw, try to explain a little more. And then, of course, on Telegraph, you can write in or leave us a voice message at shatpod.com/TV using the SpeakPipe feature, and we'll include all that in that Telegraph episode, which is the listener mail episode. But getting into the deep dive, Ash and I have prepared what we would like to cover for this week's episode. And Ash, why don't you start us off?
So for me, I really want to look at this world and how does it connect to the world that we've been seeing with Christina. We obviously get a lot of clues at the end here as Charloris is using her parlor tricks to pause everybody out in the now not simulated, but parasitic world where everybody is, taken over. We get the clue that Caleb is running out of a building that clearly says Olympiad Entertainment, which is who Christina works for. So we've got some nice connections there. We've got the tower, which, by the way, those pictures that the crazy people drew did not do it justice. It's badass looking out there in the middle of the water outside of New York City. We get a lot of the pieces put together about the muted coloring that exists. You've got people in black, you've got them in beige, and you've got them in white. Clearly, Charloris is not a fan of the color wheel. She likes these muted, kind of earthy and black tones, which really links to what Christina's been wearing all season. And so there's a lot of connections. I want to look into exactly what we've been told through the episodes and how we know it, because we know now that this isn't Meta World, it's Charloris World. Please write in and give us a better name for that. And this is something that I hope we kind of stay with moving forward. I hope this means we don't go back into the past the rest of the season, and that we just stay this 23 years in the future and us figure out, what does it mean? Who are these outliers that they mention out in the desert? How will we connect all these things moving forward? And the big question I have here, what does Charloris get out of the fact that she's won? What is the benefit to her? And I think those are really cool questions to explore.
Yeah, as we get mysteries answered, there's a new one that surfaces, right? We see what she's up to, but why remains unanswered. I really relish the way they timed Christina sort of ditching her loop in this episode with the revelations about Hale winning the world. It's not too early. It's not too late. It's exactly the right timing. Also, it just occurred to me that I don't think we've seen any older people in this new world, which might speak to that whole need for a new generation of children to be infected with the parasite for it to really work. That could be a whole dark tale that we haven't seen quite yet.
Or children, right? Either side of like the age pool here. We don't see any old people, and we're not really seeing a lot of kids. It's children of men territory here. Not a lot of babies running around.
For the deep dive, I'd like to talk about Caleb, the guy nobody seems to care about but the showrunners. Even in this episode, an episode that was very Caleb-centric, it was really hard to care. But I want to do the dirty work here. What is his significance? What the hell happened to him? And why would Charloris spend heavy resources and time? I mean, like 278 iterations, 2 decades of work to create a fidelity-tested host version of him 23 years later. 23 years later, you don't need to replace Caleb. If you popped him out in the world right now, people go, wow, you haven't aged at all in 23 years. It's a little weird. So why do it? And while you're doing it, why create a fidelity-tested host version? We've seen before that fidelity testing is meant to give you essentially immortality. It is to make you a complete copy of yourself. Like it's like you picked up right where you left off. You essentially are you. Why take the time to do it?
Yeah, and I have to say, I really enjoyed his fidelity testing more than the ones we've seen previously. I thought it was really interesting, the juxtaposition of the lights and the sound and her being in the chair, and the reveal that she didn't have her hands tied behind her back was actually a really great reveal. And there's this cliffhanger that I hope you answer, Jean, because for me, this is a big question that's sitting out there, is Charloris looks at him and says, how did you disobey me? And he says, because I have something you don't have. And then fucking Maeve ruins it, right? Because she's got to go off and be all, self-sacrificial here. But I am really interested with that because it's got to be connected. What did he have? How was he able to deny the fly power?
It's a penis.
Yeah, that's obviously it. It's because he's a man.
So that's a few of the topics we're going to cover on the deep dive. We're going to go into a lot more. Before we even put that deep dive out, you do have an opportunity to write into us, call in. You can write again at hosts@shatontv.com or visit shatpod.com/TV. Read the emails people have sent in already and add your own voicemail using the SpeakPipe feature. That can help guide us as we go into the deep dive.
Yeah, and I have to say, I am so bummed that I have missed 2 telegraphs this season. I apologize to both the listeners that wrote in these amazing things. I had so many things I wanted to say to you guys, but I had a personal issue in my own life. My grandmother recently passed away. She was amazing. And I just want to talk about just one thing really quickly related to that. The world that we live in is such a small, weird little world. And so I have been devastated by the death of my grandmother. She was like my mom. I was incredibly close to her. I've taken it really, really hard. Jean and Big D have been kind enough to kind of pick up some of the slack for me. So thank you, Jean, for that, because I've been dealing with that. But anyway, long story short, I get to the funeral. I am having just the worst day because I know I've got to eulogize my grandmother. And then what happens? But someone walks up to me and starts talking about our podcast. And so on a really depressing day, I got to talk Westworld and all things Shat, which was a wonderful, wonderful moment to just kind of forget the grief that we were all in. So I want to give a massive shout out to Carl Wilson, who is one of our listeners who knew my grandmother. Thanks so much for talking to me a little bit about Westworld, and thanks for listening. And thanks to all of you guys for all of the theories and all that you've written in. It's been really cool looking at Facebook lately, because on Facebook, people are writing about one of the reasons they're watching Westworld season 4 is because they want to listen to this Shat on TV coverage. And I cannot tell you, 1A, how that blows my mind that you all would watch a show so you could listen to us ramble on about it. And 2, it's just really fucking cool that we've got this Shat community, which means I think, Gene, we can now guilt you into doing House of the Dragon.
Listen, we're halfway through this sprint, and it is absolutely exhausting for the three of us, plus doing movies. I would not commit to doing another show, but for Westworld season 5, I'm definitely in for that.
Everyone write in. Peer pressure is a thing, guys.
Well, that concludes this week's episode of Shat on TV Westworld. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're on Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram at Shat on TV. On Facebook, just search for Shat on TV Podcast. The website is shatpod.com/TV. You can email us, host@shatontv.com. Wherever fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Pandora, Spotify, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe. And if you stop by iTunes, please leave a 5-star review. That helps the podcast grow, and it helps us go. On behalf of my co-hosts, Ash and Big D, I'm Gene Lyons. Be sure to join us on Tuesday for the Westworld Deep Dive.